Okay, so I just got an email that sparked me to do this video right here. So let me start by saying, all right, I for the most part run a contracting business model, and before I get into this, I want to say, kudos to whatever businessmen and those who are employees of businesses who have payroll schedules and stuff like that. Like, this is not a shot at them. I also want to say that I'm blessed to be able to be in a position to have a contracting model. And it's largely based on my astrological disposition. I want to make that clear before this begins. Like, that is the primary reason why I run my operations the way that I do. And I kid you not, at first it was kind of frustrating because I'm thinking that I'm supposed to follow a business model that the American system, in fact, is largely based on. So I felt very much out of place, out of touch, and just, those things is what I felt in the beginning because I just couldn't understand why I wasn't breaking through the same type of things that entrepreneurs like myself have done. And then I figured it out thanks to astrology. I give so much credit to astrology for this. Now I couldn't dream of this lifestyle that I'm living now, that I understand it. But this email, like I said, sparked me to make this video because I'm not sure whether everyone is aware of what's happening on the other side of the tracks. And when I say other side of the tracks, I mean businesses that are doing business the opposite of the way that I do it, like largely based upon payrolls and stuff like that. And again, this is largely what America and the West is ran on. Cat's out of the bag, so it's not even like I'm exposing a fucking national secret or whatever the case may be. Like, the shit is just out of the bag. But this email is a application loan from the Small Business Association. So basically, and I told y'all I don't watch TV, so but I keep hearing like or seeing like little hints on social media saying some shit now that's going on. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're like they want to stop this. Congress is going to bat, or the politicians are going to see if they can get some type of relief effort because of the virus to restore or replenish the business resources that need for day-to-day activities. Like, they're taking a hit, the stock market and all that shit, because all these companies are in trouble now and shit. And there's another side of people who are saying, fuck that shit, because all it's going to do is it's going to bail out big business like it always does, or like it's shown to do in history. So this is what made me find this an interesting time to actually talk about this, because it's like this, and economists will argue, this is probably the biggest debate in economics in the scholastic field, is that between accounting profit and economic profit. There's two types of profit in the business world, where accounting profit means, and I may have spoke about this once before in another video, but accounting profit is pretty much, let's say we build a building, a stadium that holds 30,000 people, right? And we figure, okay, if we have 10 shows here this year alone, and we charge tickets at a rate of $30 a piece, and we sell food at the concession stands, yada 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 yada, we can rake up this amount of money because of this stadium being here. So what the accountants do is they pretty much tally or value that stadium at the future costs of those tickets coming in, and it's called net present value or future present value. They can extend this valuation years out. Sometimes what investors will look for, maybe a 3 to 5 year NPV or FPV, to see how much revenue that this stadium, for example, is going to generate. You follow me so far? Okay, so when you hear press releases and stuff about, the new Dodger Stadium is worth $12 million or probably more than that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, oh, really? Well, goddamn, like that's it's a stadium and it's nice and everything, but goddamn, it's really worth that much? And they haven't sold a ticket yet. You understand what I'm saying? But this is a large example of how a lot of things are valued in America, in the West. Okay. Now, the economic perspective from this and their viewpoint to argue and debate is this: you cannot, from their perspective, evaluate something that has not been made already, and that the true health of a business is its quarterly profits, because that is a short enough span to determine whether the expenses do not exceed the revenue, right? If we are going to wait 3 to 5 years out to see that calculation, and it's been 3 to 5 years and this company has expenses that exceed the revenue, we are looking at a business that is not profitable. It probably made money in the process. However, it's going to be ran on an operational model that consists of debt. And we don't know necessarily, or do we track as consumers and everyday citizens, what every company's DE ratio is, debt to equity ratio is. Now, a healthy debt to equity ratio is a 1. But there are debt to equity ratios that are unhealthy. And what a debt to equity ratio that is unhealthy means is that they have taken on more debt than they have liquid assets. Okay? And this is important, that the assets are liquid and not determined as hard assets, because although hard assets do have some type of value, it cannot turn into liquid cash in the moment that, say for example, a debtor wants all their money right now. They're not trying to give any more loans unless you repay this amount back that they've loaned you already, right? If you cannot liquidate your assets to make that happen, the loan stops. And then who are you going to sell your hard assets to? If you begin to start selling your hard assets, you might be actually thinking to sell your company to someone else, get acquired, an acquisition to take place, or you might go bankrupt. You may not have any more business because you've been running so long off of this debt model, to where you're promising these future values from this establishment, yet you struggle to do so. And it could be for a numerous amount of reasons, right? So it's important to understand this so that you can understand how a lot of businesses get off of the ground, and how, I don't want to make this about a video about how people get loans and don't get loans, but I want it to be understood that not every company goes from bottom up and then, pulls themselves up by the bootstraps. Like, a lot of that is bullshit. So like, you may see Shark Tank, right? And they'll say, how, when the people come in and say, well, how many sales have you made already, right? They want their experience curve. Very important to when investors get involved. And they'll say, oh, we made 60,000 in sales. And they're like, okay, that's good. Well, I want 40% in the first year. And they'd be like, what the fuck? But they're so desperate to get this shit off of the ground that they'll go for it, right? And these are just some situations. I'm just using that as an example. Kevin O'Leary, he's just a fucking beast, right? He was like, give me 40%. And I'm like, man, fuck. That's me. I'm like, man, fuck you. Like, I'll take my chances elsewhere. But he be knowing what he's doing. So, and that's just one shark, right? But my point is this: all businesses don't have an experience curve. Some businesses come out of the gate because they have a business plan and an idea that is so attractive to some investors, and banks included, that they go with it without a single sale being made. And you might be like, and you may not be none the wiser. You may think everyone's pulling themselves up by the bootstraps, but that's not fucking true. You just got some angel investors, some venture capitalists that these ideas are being pitched to, especially in California. And they're like, oh yeah, I like the idea. It's great. Let's start up. I'll give you a 100 million capital. Because think about it. If you see a company that is like, has residential real estate in Manhattan somewhere, and they got 100 employees, let's say you're paying them like 40 grand a piece every year. That's 4 million in payroll. So what are you selling? Like, let's say, for example, let's say they're selling software program, computer securities software, right? and they're like $50 to $100 a pop for the premium thing. So you gotta understand how many sales have to be made in this competitive industry for security software, right? Now, what happens if tomorrow the next computer goon comes out with a hardware system that does not need any security software, which is kind of like what Apple is, but they can be penetrated though, don't get me wrong. But let's say these computers are really hacker proof, everything designed, you can't get into these bitches. Guess what happens to that security software program? They're fucking done. They are fucking done unless they have a miracle that they come up with some other type of product that'll save them, like the iPhone saves Apple, etc., etc. You understand what I'm saying? If not, they'll probably be living off of the same business model that got them in the door. An investor giving them $100 million to start up their company, and or a debtor giving them, a loan to go based upon an experience curve, and then they can no longer keep up with the bills because their sales are going to go down. You understand what I'm saying? So when everyone is flying high, or you think you're flying high, or you're just none the wiser, you're an employee, and again, this is not a shot at anyone in this business model, but if you're none the wiser about these things and you think the economy is flying high, you see these nice buildings and the mopped marble floors, and the train stations go right into them, and everyone's on the 100th floor, and they're like fucking suits and ties, and then they go hang out at Tribeca, and they fucking party at the meatpacking district, and you think everything is fucking great. It's really like a model that's running on time. It's running on time. And I'm not saying all businesses are fucked up. I'm not saying all businesses have an unhealthy debt equity ratio. What I'm saying is, do we know? Are we questioning that? Are we looking at the annual reports and the quarterly reports of these companies, which is made public, by the way? How many sales, revenue, and all of that shit. I mean, a balanced scorecard is pretty much what I'm speaking about. It might not be 100% detailed, but you can look at these things to find out which businesses are being responsible. So it's like the crash, when the crash happened and you heard about this AAA credit rating that a lot of businesses lost and it was decreased. It was because of that these companies took on too much debt in contrast to the liquid assets that they have. All right, so this is also for entrepreneurs and small business owners that are going into business, right? You want to think about this too, because like people, like take me for example, as a matter of fact, I'll use myself. For me to get a loan from someone, right, or just a debt faction, right, for me to get a loan from this institution, they want to see my experience curve, and they want a quota of at least 40 grand and up in sales on a year. And it's just like, that's not typical, especially today, especially in a developed economy. The opportunity to make money at that type of level is more feasible and plausible actually in a developing nation. I don't want to digress from this video though, but there's reasons for that, and the reason is we are so highly developed over here that a lot of us don't need shit, and technology is advancing so rapidly that one thing that was good for you today can be phased out tomorrow. And once you get this experience curve to where these people want to give you money at that point, you now have to be aware of the same thing that a lot of these companies are facing today, which is, what if something happens? What if something happens and you have a payroll of 10 to 100 people, right? In the usual circumstances, it's the people who go first. Like, I'm just keeping it official with y'all. This is on record. Like, it's the personnel who goes first, and it's a sad situation. And then the CEO paid himself $250,000 every year. So this is just something to take into consideration. This is something to think about. Quarterly profit versus economic profit versus accounting profit. And think about it. What do you think? Do you think it's worth the building to be valued at a value that it is? And of course, the construction takes place and everyone got paid for and everything. But that was the risk that some of these businesses took, to spend all of that money to get it off of the ground. And if it's not where the projection said it should be, should they be held accountable and not be bailed out by these types of loans?